Hey, welcome everybody. So today I have a very special guest joining us today. One of the former members in the Fit Body program, Bill Kenworthy, who I like to say optimized his health and was able to reach a level of peak performance through the program. And Bill, I'd love to welcome you into today's interview. And I'm so thankful that you were able to carve out some time and join us here today. First of all, I'd love to hear from you how you're doing today, my man.
Thanks, Urslan. Welcome to your community, prospective community. Bill Kenworthy. We're partners together starting late last fall. I think we started at the very end of October. I'm sure we can talk about what my goals were at the time and how they came along and where I am today. But it's a pleasure to be with you. My macro goal at the time was really around trying to enhance my performance, obviously specific parts of my wellness, as all your community members will have. And I think it happened. Right? And I think we'll talk about specific pieces here. So as you said, a former member. So, right now we're not partnering on a program with me, but we continue to text and talk, and that's who you are. And it's my pleasure to kind of talk about pieces of what I experienced in the program. All of it, when I look back, went very well. I think there were little pieces inside of it that, if I had known, maybe I could have confronted better. I could have worked with you better. And I think it's appropriate to talk to, your community members and prospective members about what those are, because then you can have an authentic relationship and work through it together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said. And Bill, I'd also love to have you introduce yourself to our community. Maybe if you can share a bit about your background, who you are, and what you do as well.
Sure. It's probably relevant, but I'm a 46-year-old guy here. I've been very physically active my whole life, doing that in the midst of, college, played volleyball in college, came out, and I went into the professional and corporate world. I'm in the industry of energy. I do consulting. So, help when companies think about how they want to use less carbon, become more green, and they make these big commitments that we all as consumers are asking of them, and they know that they have to do. They're not exactly sure what to do. So they call me. I've been in this over 20 years, worked a little bit before that. So I think I'm a pretty normal guy in the sense of like relating to other people, father of three, play basketball with some of my buddies once a week. And our entire goal is no one should get hurt. At different times in my life, went to the gym, pretty intensely, and then probably had years when I fell off of that, running, not running, eating well, having McDonald's, all of that. So average guy here who does a lot of corporate work. I believe in mental health. I've studied a lot around wellness and mindfulness, and I think that all converges with just trying to show up every day, the best for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for your work. Live in New York City as well. Interestingly, we're on video today. You and I have never met in person, so our entire relationship has been virtual, and yet we were able to manifest something together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Bill, I'd also love to hear from you. There he is, David Brusco, showing up today saying Coach K.
Oh, man.
So, Bill, I'd love to hear from you also. What made you decide to have a coach in your corner? Because as you mentioned, you were already in good shape. You were already taking care of yourself. So I'd love to hear from you about that as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned someone who's watching us there, Dave Brusco. We have a common colleague, Lave, and Lave is Lave's a contact, a former, or maybe even current client of yours, and so basically it was a referral. And so this started out a lot more innocuous. So it was probably a year ago. I saw Lave, at the soccer field. And I was like, "Oh, you look good." And then the next time I was like, "You look a little better." Not that I thought he looked bad before. And so, as all sideline parents can be anywhere, we talk, right? We talk about what's going well in parenting. We talk about our own health. We talk about various things. And I was definitely going to the gym, but I don't know that I was inside of a program, right? And I do have probably the benefit of some decent genes, but that doesn't mean, and we'll talk about it, that I was doing many other things correctly. I was not. So you'll take me there when you want to, but about sleep, but about walking, hydration, when I start my day, thinking about my macros. So it was almost like I had been so healthy my whole life and physically able that I was arrogant about the other pieces of what wellness looks like. So when you and I connected, ultimately what we triangulated on was about performance, right? I want to be able to have constant energy levels. I want to feel rested. I want to have cognitive strength for work and resilience and parenting when I got home. And I knew I wasn't at my peak. So kind of connecting back towards like, wow, maybe there's elements of wellness that I don't know anything about, and kind of you get lave over here. And there's also like a part of me, and I'm sure like others, a coach helps, just someone to help give the next 3 steps so you know what to do. And so when Lave introduced us, we probably talked last summer, you and I, Ursula, and I wasn't ready, right? I mean, there's an investment, but it's not whether the investment is a lot on an absolute level. The question I think all of us ask is, are we going to maximize that investment? Mm-hmm. And so you and I had to have a number of talks, and then I had to have a lot of talks with myself about, being ready to commit to that, my investment, my piece of that investment.
Yeah. And also, Bill, just to touch on what you were saying earlier about just your own wellness journey, apart from this, could you also share where you were before the program, before you learned about all of these different things that we'll chat a little bit more about as well?
Yeah, I looked at myself as saying, decent level or like average to above average, like body fat, right? Still had some definition, could still run once a week and play pickup basketball. Not sure I was the most fit, but I was more fit than most people playing basketball. So I had all these markers saying, you got this. And yet, pre-pandemic, I can remember being in meetings and other staff members coming in with their giant water bottles. I didn't do that, right? I almost was like eschewing the fact that making fun of people walking around with giant 1-gallon water. So the fact that I was even making fun of that meant I knew that there was something that either they were doing right or wrong, and I wasn't. So I just want to highlight, like, I had this illusion, like, because I had decent fitness, that I was well. And and then here comes the pandemic, where I ran a lot. I ran almost every day in the pandemic, but I didn't go to, none of us could go to the gym, but I would just run. And so that was a good level of fitness. But then I came home and had 2 drinks every night. Right. And I was staying up, I don't know, watching news or Netflix. So my sleep wasn't right. And I think there was just a confluence of a moment when I said, there's some stuff that's going very well and I have an advantage. There's a whole basket of things I don't know about. And then we met.
And then I'd love to with that said, I'd love to get into what were some of those things that we were able to uncover together that have now led to an improvement in your overall health, life, and performance.
Yeah. I didn't know what 10,000 steps really meant. I mean, like, I get it. I'm an engineer, so I knew. And I remember there was this one day, we lay out the program. We'll talk about different elements of it. And I have my Apple Watch, and I felt like I was walking around. And I looked at my watch later that day, and it was like 900 steps. Oh, like, what the moment was? Like, you have to be much more intentional about this. So that's just like one anecdote of saying there are dimensions of this program that will invite you to be intentional. So in that case, and it was the fall and it was a warm fall or not a cold fall, I just started taking my conference calls, walking around the neighborhood and park. Right. And then all of a sudden it was like, you go from 1,000 to 6,000 to 7,000. Yeah, you might have walked for an hour, but you're going to get in a couple thousand steps. I go to the soccer field. My kids are warming up. Instead of just standing there, I'll walk the field. So I'd say that was like the moment was like, if you really want to do this, you can be intentional. without actually having to be that disruptive. I still had my work call. I still took my kids to the soccer field. I still watched my kids on the soccer field, right? Rather than sitting in this exact chair here that probably I should not have subjected myself to 8 hours by not getting up for a water. So I'd say mobility, just walking or something. And again, I was running from time to time. I'm playing basketball, and yet I wasn't getting in steps, right? Water, you were talking about how much water to drink. It's not that hard to drink 8 to 10 of these if you just do it once an hour. Yeah, if you wait until the middle of the day and you try to down a half gallon, it will feel like a lot. And it seems like such an easy thing to do or not do. I don't know. Like, just grab a cup of water. So I'm like more mindful of that. Sleeping, you and I continue to talk about, I think I have a natural rhythm that is like, I'll go to bed at midnight and wake up at 8 or 7:30 in case my boss is listening. But really, it's like the more I can wind that back and, fine, go to bed at 10. It's a little easier to get up at 6 and start your day. So it was, and then the other really big category was around the macros and the way to approach the diet, right? So, and your words to me were, I might be something slightly unique because my goal besides wellness and performance was actually to put on mass, right? I've kind of triangulated around the same weight for the last 10 years, which may sound great, but everyone can know your composition can change, and mine changed. What was muscle in 2003 or 2013, right, is a lot less muscle in 2023. So you and I, our goal was to add weight together. And that really came from a lot more intention around how to structure my diet.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because there's a lot of new research that's showing us that, we've been fighting the obesity epidemic, if you want to call it that, for the past 50 years. And we've been focusing on fat. We've been focusing on losing fat. And what we're finding now is that the common thread among obesity, overweight, and many diseases is actually a level of unhealthy muscle. And so being able to exercise and being able to do resistance training and being able to hit the right macros, especially protein, we're finding is beginning to not only help with overall body composition, overall health, looking better is amazing, sure, but also with your overall way you're feeling with preventing disease, preventing aging. And so with that said, I would love to hear from you about how the exercise portion and how the macro protein specifically helped you improve your overall well-being and what that provided for you differently that maybe you weren't experiencing at the same level before.
Yeah. I feel like my diet has transformed because of the awareness of what it is. So what I'm going to tell people here, whether it's your current members or prospective, is you're going to get from our son like a printout of what the right diet looks like. But what you won't know is, you may not, what should you eat before you go to the gym, right? So should you have the shake before you go to the gym? How many coffees can you have? Or what if you just got out of sequence inside of a day? So if I had my plan to go at 6 a.m., you helped me work out, what worked for me was like, I'll have an apple and an oatmeal or something before I go. So not too heavy, but something. But you'll give me details of like spiking my sugar and not coming back. Can I have my big breakfast? When do I work in a morning shake? Like all of these things, it's like you're a 24-hour concierge because I would text you and you're definitely hitting me back with something that's bespoke for me. And I'd say there's all these little implementation pieces that I very quickly realized my investment in you was being matched with a service level. Because we're all going to have like different operating lives. Like I couldn't get there this morning. I'm at night. Can I have dinner before? Can I have dinner after? Do I drink, one of these like muscle, like C4 drinks ahead of time? Are they ever good? So I'd say that changed. So I find that I almost never ravished anymore. I like to eat. I bet we all like to enjoy, our cheat meals or something delicious. But I'm rarely ravished. Breakfast, morning shake, breakfast, snack, breakfast, shake, like you have the right level. And your promise to me that overall I wouldn't find these like major pangs of hunger, it plays out. It's probably not your formula. It's just physiology, and the right way to coach us. But it's really helped. So I'd say that's something. I used to have these major dips. I'm not sure I was a guy that ate breakfast, wasn't drinking water. I was going into my work like starved. Right. And now just
Wow.
with like a little prudence and less arrogance. And I'm trying to treat food as fuel more. I still can make a delicious, egg white and spinach thing, throw some salt and hot pepper in it. You're good. It's not that painful. And it wasn't that extraordinary to add in some of those things. So I say in general, if I'm feeling better from a diet and a hunger point of view or a lack of hunger, I just felt better going into the gym. And I did go into the gym, right? And I love those. Once I got into the gym, working out is a fun thing. I do want to talk about working out because
let's go there. I'd love to hear.
Yeah. We're trying to think about some user tips using the fit program, like what it's like on the startup side. So I think in the first couple of weeks, you're generally a total body, at least for where I was starting, right? We weren't isolating push or pull. It was a little, for me, it was a little of everything. And we started out on the machines to just get a baseline of strength and stretching, right? And so we had that. And then we moved on to the free weights, which is what I wanted to do. I think I increased my weights too quickly there. So if you and I, in our ambition to put on weight, absolutely, some adjustments we made, we had to up my calories a little bit. So maybe there's going to be community members that need to lower their calories to kind of accelerate. So whatever version they want. So it's like being honest with trying to triangulate the diet that works. And then inside of the gym, no one should get hurt inside of the gym. So I think it is an expression I like, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Like, maybe just more lower weights and really focusing on the form. Like you have great videos. And I used to use those videos to like watch your grip and your back and where you were working the bars. And that's something, right? So you have your app is amazing. The app you have, it shows you the workouts. It has the timers. And then if you don't know how to do it, you hit the video that takes you to your YouTube of you doing that exercise. Like it's your app. I know it might be on someone's platform, but it is you.
Yes, sir.
So all of this helped when you're inside of there. And if you work the timers, the rest in between the sets, the next exercise, you can be in and out in an hour if you want. Right? And I think that's part of your program. But a little lesson was I was getting impatient by adding weight there. And I think I was compromising form there. So just one day felt a little bit of a tweak. You and I immediately said, let's back off and just focus on, hey, you're there. Hey, you're doing the proper exercises. You have to listen to your body. And I don't think we've worked together since late January. We had a 3 or 4 month program together. I'm still doing your program, right? Here we are, almost double the time off. But it's about being patient.
I love that. And actually, I'd love to hear about how your transition's been graduating from the program and how your lifestyle has essentially been since we've worked together back in late January.
Maybe the biggest compliment I can have is it didn't change, right? So I sustained the best practices that you would want me to have, the times I eat, what I eat, the mindfulness about water and rest. And most of the time I'm in the gym replicating the same program that you asked for. I have added weight at this point in there. I'd say the only other difference is when I was using your app, because there's a timer, I probably admittedly use a little space. I'm just happy to be in the gym. So instead of a 1 minute rest, it might turn into 2, but I'm mostly just listening to music or texting. So that would probably be one adjustment that came off of it. So I didn't add as much mass as I wanted, and it's probably because I'm not eating. I probably have a natural level of calories, say 2,000. In order to put on the 10 pounds of mass, I probably need to be at the 23, 24, 2,500. So that's come off a little bit without your coaching and us monitoring it. But here's where I know it changed. And I've I'm bragging with you because I started doing pull-ups on a machine that has a counterweight, helps me,
Yeah.
right?
The assisted pull-up machine. That's right.
Yeah. I don't do that anymore, right? I'm doing 4 sets of 8. There's no assisted pull-up. I'm on the bar. My bench started, it doesn't matter. Let's just say it's up 70% from where I started. My squat is up 70% since we started. So I'm not putting on quite the mass, but if I'm lifting that much more, I have reset my body composition. It has to be, right? Otherwise I couldn't be. So 6 months on, if the major lesson is I want to put on mass, I just need to eat. In my case, I need to eat more. And I'd say if somebody was creeping up back on weight, you probably just need to take in fewer calories. But if you're able to be at the gym or taking your steps as many or more or faster, you're still making progress.
Yeah. And Bill, one thing I'd like to hear from you is you were mentioning earlier, and this just came up for me, is the humility behind having a coach in your corner. What do you think kind of got you over the hump of saying, maybe there is something here that I could learn that I don't have the full knowledge based on?
So when I was no longer your client, your active client, I recently asked you about the intermittent fasting, right? A friend and I were debating, and I remember, and I texted you. I said, and I thought you were going to forward me a PDF you'd sent, but you made a customized video for me, like 3 minutes, about the science behind it. No, but that's who you are, right? You didn't just you gave me a response that was based in excellence. Right. And I appreciated that. It helped my friend and I have the conversation. I say that because most people will experience you from the outset. You are a professional in this space. I think you study physiology, you're always trying to be better. You study wellness, you study diet, and you're always bringing that. So from the outset, it's pretty clear you're going to know more as a coach. Okay. So that wasn't hard, like from a mental, humble point of view. Where it does get hard is on week 3, when you might not have taken your pictures of your body's progress. You're a little behind on the food logging app. And lo and behold, at 6:30 in the morning, you get a text from Ursula that says, "Hey, Bill, how's it going?" That's a moment. That's a moment where there's something that bubbles, right? And it requires humility because you're like, damn it, I was traveling this week. I had an unexpected, one of my kids got sick. Like, life happens. And so the humility is as much going to your coach and going, didn't hit everything today, but also, having that same conversation with yourself. And that's the reason why we all drift off wellness, is because we know what to do. And sometimes it's just easier not to do the hard thing sometimes. But where it comes back to you, and what I figured out after a couple of these moments when I felt like I let you down, right? Like, you treat us like a client, like we're your client, which is lovely. But I was feeling like I was letting you down. And so I was hiding from you. But when we had those conversations, even if you thought it, and you probably didn't, you were very compassionate. You almost never made a thing. You never, for me, you never made a thing about a miss. You were always like, no problem. Like, what's up? What can we do next? And so you're a very authentic person. You treat us like clients, which honors the investment. But you're just compassionate, and you probably know the struggles around just pushing wellness. And that, after a couple cycles of knowing I wasn't going to be judged, like, all this notion of hiding from you went away, and we just got to co-create.
Wow. That's amazing, man. I thank you for those kind words. I know we were talking a bit about that before we went live as well. And like I shared with you then, it's really amazing for me to hear that, because it's something that I wasn't really consciously aware of. But just hearing that helps me understand, like, how I can be a better coach for the clients as well. So I do appreciate that. And I also would love to hear from you, Bill. What made you decide to do this interview with me today? I'm actually just really curious,
Yeah.
because it means so much to me that you're investing your time, your energy right now to do this, and then you're also saying amazing things. I would love to hear from you. What really motivated you to jump on this call and interview with me today?
When I lead a lot of people, so I say there's two things. One, I fundamentally want anyone I manage or work with to be successful, and two, I'll be real. Right? And I care most about connections and authenticity. And so whenever I connect with people, there is an element. Probably the topic I like to talk most is just like mental health, right, and mindfulness, and how we all live in a world that leads us to react, and like how do we start to see that and rise above. It's my favorite topic and the one I've studied the most. And so whether it's someone that on this call right now whom I know, a couple people, we have these talks on the sideline, and I think we all want to perform better and be well. Life is hard enough. Like how can we just be better towards ourselves? So I wanted to talk here with you and anyone, the one or 1,000 people listening, and to share my experience, because some of it wasn't easy, right? I wanted to hide from you. Some days I couldn't log into the app. I got tweaked because I tried to add too much weight. So I feel like if I could share some best practices around how to be a partner to you, as you're a partner to us, maybe we can have somebody stay in the program a little longer. Maybe somebody will join, or maybe they won't have anything to do with me or you, and they just drink more water. I think just more people healthier is better. And I wanted to give that out to the world and the universe. So it was a pleasure when we figured out, let's just talk live.
Wow, that's amazing, man. I love that. I love that abundant mindset. And one thing that you really touched on that I'd love to chat about as well is mental health. May is actually Mental Health Awareness Month. I learned that last year through another member in our program. And I'd love to hear from you. How has this helped you beyond just health in the physical sense? How has this helped in other areas of your life as well?
Sure. Probably rest. I think being more aware of sleeping patterns there allows me to confront the volatilities and fluidity of every day at work, and being a parent of three. Like everything is always has its own dynamic. And I find that when I'm more rested, I show up better to those places. I mean, I think so. There's that full stop. Just think about treating your body better, which doesn't have to be that transformational. You can do a number of small things, and you actually feel better. And you won't feel better in a minute, right? You won't feel better overnight, but you'll get like a month on, and you look back and you're like, I feel pretty rested, right? It won't be a singular binary event. So there's like little things you can do. But then like there is a conversation we all have with ourselves to get out of bed early or go to the gym. And I find that mental exercise for me is part of mindfulness and wellness. Like, okay, I'm going to be intentional. And just the act of being intentional, I feel more empowered, myself. So I think you set out a program that I had to opt into. I made an investment. We all might make an investment. And that's one driver. Okay, well, I paid dollars. Right? And then you have a vision where you think you're headed. Maybe it's to lose weight, gain weight, walk more, rehab, whatever it is. We all have that vision. I'm not sure it's a straight line, right? There's going to be cycles up, down. I didn't put on weight, but I'm stronger. Okay, that was what my journey was. So you can't separate these things. Being intentional about wellness is being intentional about emotions, and that'll translate to personal relationships. It'll translate to work relationships. And I think if we all just can show up better, it was a win.
Yeah. And Bill, with that said, what do you feel like stops people from making that transformation and from investing into a coach that can guide them through that transformational process?
If you don't try, if you withhold trying, then you can avoid failure.
Wow. That was a mic drop moment. Wow. Could you say that again for the people in the back?
Yeah. If we don't have a vision for something and we never put ourselves out there, then it's true we won't fail. Yeah. And I think that's the reality. We might not choose your program because there's a vacation upcoming and we don't want to get 6 weeks on and then, you know, get to some European country and have to withhold the gelato eating. Well, why don't you make that decision when you get there? Right. That's what I'd say. Do that. So,
I love
you know,
that.
but if you don't choose, you know, you've made a choice in a way too. So there's an element. So I just think it's like the conversations we have with ourselves is what holds us back. Instead of very simply, just start. Just start. You know, don't put that pressure on yourself. What 6 weeks is going to be about. Just start. You know, it'll work with you for sure. You have all the resources in the program. You are a professional. And again, it would have been amazing if we could be together, but here we are virtually. But
Yeah.
just start.
I'd actually love to hear about that. Obviously, like you mentioned earlier, and again now, we didn't meet in person. So how was that just experience from what you thought it would be to what it actually was, working virtually and working remotely?
It was better than I thought there because you show up in a couple different places, right? You show up on text, you show up in an app. I know you run things with the community, you know, once a week, you'll kind of invite people into a live stream or a work group there. You send us videos, there's stuff to read. So you exceeded my expectations around showing up. And then we had our live calls as well. I mean, everybody on this call maybe all your client base is New York, you're New York based. So we're all fast talkers, we're all direct, we all some of the more stereotypical things. And leveling for me, understanding that your positivity is not a sale, right? You in the very beginning, it felt like this guy's trying to sell me, and it's not. It's the opposite. Like you're inviting people into positivity and movement, and that skepticism, like what's happening here. You just have to. You're so consistent that your true value shows up if we let it.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, thank you for that, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look, this all sounds like a commercial. The reality
it
is,
does,
the
right?
truth is,
I'm so glad we're recording it.
I transformed myself through your structure because I learned about hydration and sleep and macros and a proper way to work out. These are all things I've been naive about. Yeah, they're right there on Google, but no one has the time or is making the time to build their own program. And it happened with you, which was my goal. So now I went into it with that goal. I went into it with that vision. So maybe I manifested it, but you were right there. So if I'm better 6 months on, I'm just speaking truth here that you were the platform for me to perform better and be healthier.
Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yep.
Go on, please.
No, thanks. It was a delightful experience. And I will go to the gym later today. And I still don't get up early. For the record, Urslan wants me to get up at 4:45, like Marky Mark, and meditate for 3 hours, and then get to the gym and still, take my kids to work. I don't do that yet, but I am getting up earlier. It will happen. I'd love for that. We didn't quite align on that timing yet. Right.
That's funny, man. Yeah. And Bill, with that said, what would you say your favorite part about the experience in the program?
Favorite is the gym. I enjoyed being in the gym. I loved having a structure. I loved believing it was building. And I was pretty good in the gym before, but you helped. So that was my favorite part. I think the most notable part is the diet. All right. You helped me understand the macros, right? What's it? It's my carbs, my proteins, and my fats. Yeah. There. And it was really the most notable was how little protein I was taking in. Yeah. So I guess fun gym, notable was diet, and sort of the secondary was just around hydration and steps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Bill, what would you say, if anything, it sounds like a little bit, you were mentioning about this earlier, almost stopped you from investing into the program and then ultimately having not only this transformation, but also having the education now that you have to sustain it?
Probably the alternative that I could self-serve it, right? I'd already had a gym membership. Hey, I'm going, I'm playing some pickup basketball, so I'm getting my cardio in. So thinking I knew and thinking I could self-serve it. That's what was stopping me. Right? I wasn't so much afraid of the work. I think I thought I knew what a program was in my case. In reality, I didn't know what a program was, and I think I was okay with the work there. So when you think it's it's a doable investment level, but you got to think about it, right? Again, doable, and you work with your clients on that. But so you put enough of a hurdle to say, oh, do I have to I can self-serve my way to that same spot. I couldn't, right? So I just had to get real with myself that it was worth the investment. I couldn't self-serve it, and I was ready to do it. And then, and I think everyone should, when they come to that choice on their own, any wellness program, mental health, new job, whatever thing they want to do, obviously it's important to be ready to do it, but it is also just start. So as soon as I made the decision with you, I didn't think twice about it. Like I was like, done. I didn't say, am I going to get this $1 per workout or this $1 per touch with her? So I just said, that's done. Let's go. And it was a great, we got started straight away. So I'm going to guess it's within, like, in reality, it's doable for most people. You should do it. I believe in wellness.
Yeah,
we all do. It's not, there's books. There's at least one book written on wellness
out there. Yeah, I think maybe one hidden somewhere in a undisclosed location, the library.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe a little bit of an oddball of a question, but I actually would love to hear from you. Who do you think this program is not for?
I suppose if you aren't interested in going to the gym, I mean, look, when you go into the gym, there are people who look like they've been to the gym before and people who look like they're in the earlier part of the journey. And I'm sure it's very humbling to go to the gym and feel like you're putting like 1 pound on the machine, right? So like we all have that thing, right, that we don't do well, right? And so easy for me to start. I'd been to the gym a lot of times. If you're someone who is embarrassed about going and doing that, maybe you could work with them though. Maybe there's ways to do weights at home or like the stretch bands. I can imagine.
Lave, I just want to quickly interject. Lave also did his entire program from home, actually.
Okay.
So there are definitely ways to adapt it for sure.
Yeah, I was just imagining there are people out here who would buy into everything you and I are saying, but maybe they're injured, coming back from a knee or hip replacement, and tell themselves like, all well and good that this guy plays basketball, wants to just lift more, sure, but we're all going to have our hurdle right around that. So I would imagine there's ways to customize programs to meet where people are on their journey. And I think that's where, if I were you, you have that conversation with people and you really explore what the constraints are around it. I mean, I think the program could fit. I don't believe, I don't know if you're marketing to men and women. I don't know. I thought there was a tag. I don't know what that is. So I won't put the opposite out there, but I do think it can fit most people. I mean, I guess you kind of have to look at all attributes of the program and have a real conversation about whether you want to step into each of them at least a little.
Yeah. And with that said, I'd also love to ask, what would you say to anybody that might be on the fence about this program?
Do it. Yeah. I'm thinking people are on the fence because there's an investment level. And if that investment level, like if you said, I'll take $100 off, like you probably wouldn't have to go that far down, and you shouldn't, but you wouldn't have to go that far down for people to say, oh, well, that's the investment level. And so what I'd say to anyone was like, don't overthink a couple $100. Like, don't, because you're probably going to learn things that far as I have that like carry on past the program. Right. So this isn't about, for me, it wasn't, oh, I could just do this at the gym for this much per month, or it will carry on because of all the ways you have supported us, and you continue to support me, with our text and different exchanges of information there. So I would just do it. Now we did a 3-month program, so I think you have 3-month and 6-month programs. Like there could be ways to slice and dice and get creative and just start. You think about the timing in life. Maybe you're starting a new job. Maybe you do have that vacation. Maybe you want to wait till you get a bonus to make the investment in you. Whatever, you might have something structural. But maybe there's a way to work with you to kind of work through that and get going.
I love that. And Bill, with that said, I'd love to hear just final thoughts you have, things you'd like to leave people off with, maybe as words of wisdom or encouragement as well.
Do I have those? I believe we all create the outcomes. Like we can create the outcomes we want. We can create the outcomes we want in life. So I know what it takes to put on mass. I know what it takes now, right? You help give me that. And if someone wants to lose 10 pounds, I'm quite sure, like the human spirit is very strong. So I'm quite sure that anybody can lose the weight they want if they want to put in the intention around it. But it's also okay if you don't. Like self-compassion is an important part of all of this, in the sense that I said I believe people may not start because they're afraid to fail. Well, it's okay if you start and you didn't hit that first goal, like just readjust. So maybe the mindset is around self-compassion. I think most humans are out here just trying to do their best. And if we treated ourselves like we treat our friends or our kids from compassion, we probably be easier on ourselves than we are. So I'd say start and then just have self-compassion around things.
I love that, Bill. Man, that's such a powerful message because there's a great quote that says you either win in life or you learn, and all failure is an opportunity to learn, to readjust, like you mentioned, course, and keep striving towards that goal.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Bill, I want to thank you for everything that you shared with us today. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you guys found this valuable, there are a couple of ways that you can give back. One is you can like or heart this video. And then 2 is you can share this with just one other person that you believe would also find some value from it. So thank you again for watching. Bill, thank you so much for joining us here today. And we will catch you in our next episode.
Thanks all.